let's make some pie dough. What is pie dough? Pie dough is really just water, flour, sugar, butter, and salt. Just 5 ingredients. There's a lot of people out there that put more ingredients into it to enhance the flavor. So that's what we're going to test today. I have 2 more recipes here that add egg yolks for richness and tenderness, and cream cheese, which is cream cheese. It's very exciting. So we're going to test those 2 recipes and see how it goes. Alright, so let's start with cutting the butter. We can throw the butter in the freezer while we prep the other ingredients. And here I'm going to show you guys how to do the variation with the egg yolk. Alright, so first we'll get our flour and mix it up with sugar and salt. You can choose any flour you want. You can do whole wheat, all whole wheat, part whole wheat. Just make sure you take out equal parts of all purpose and substitute with the whole wheat. You can even do a little chocolate in there, take out like 2 tablespoons of all purpose and put in some cocoa powder or something. So here we'll put in sugar and salt, pulse it a few times, and just to incorporate it and start mixing our butter. I'm using the food processor here. You can use the mixer, the standard mixer, or you can use your hands. A lot of people use hands too, or standard mixer. It's easier for me to use the food processor, it's just nice and easy. So next we'll mix in some butter. I just put 1 piece at a time here and spread them out so they don't clump up in there. When I mix them, just push them around a little bit, nothing crazy. And then we're gonna pulse it to the consistency of the sand, I guess. I'll show you guys just in a second here. Just a little pieces just like this we're looking for. And keep in mind, guys, here that you can put any flavors you want: ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg. Be the master of your pie. Alright, so next we are gonna put our mixture in, our liquids, eggs and milk that we mixed in. This is instead of our water in our basic recipe. So we're gonna pulse this a couple of times. Don't do too much or anything like that. We're kind of looking for it to start binding that flour and butter together and clump up just like this. Alright, let me show you the side version here so we can see it a little bit better. When it's done too is that if I take a little bit out of it, you see I take a little bit out of this, I squish it, and guess what, it stays together, right? So it's not like it's falling apart. Like I can take like a good chunk of it, squish it together, and it will stay like this. That's when you know it's done. Next we're gonna dump it on the counter on the plastic wrap. And so we're gonna gather the dough, kind of push it all together, and then wrap it in a plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. Here you can separate it into 2 halves. The first half is gonna go for the bottom crust, and the second half is gonna be the top layer of the pie or the decoration. Or you can also split it after the fridge with the knife. Just cut it in half and you should be good to go. Alright, next we're gonna just put it in the fridge for 30 minutes up to 2 days, and it's just gonna sit there. You can also put it in the freezer for months until the craving strikes, and then just take it out, put it in the fridge to defreeze overnight, and you're good to go to roll it out. Alright, so let's take our first half of the dough from the fridge. I let it sit on the counter for around 3 minutes just to get it a little softer, and then we can put the flour on our rolling surface. In this case it's my counter. You can see here I kind of coat the dough in flour as well, and start rolling it out. If it's really hard to roll out and the dough is still hard, just let it sit for just a couple more minutes. And don't be afraid to use flour. I remember the first time I made this, I was kind of worried about using the flour, and it was sticking everywhere and stuff like that. You can even see here, just make sure it doesn't stick to the counter, and I keep reapplying the flour and just keep rolling with it. Alright, so you can guys see the dough is kind of cracking as well, right? On the edges there and down the middle a little bit there even. So just use your fingers, right? So you just press it down a little bit as you're going along. You can see me pressing it down and patching it here and there. Not a big deal. That's what the fingers are for. I do prefer baking with metal pie pans. The glass ones are a little harder because they actually stay hotter for longer, so the pie just keeps cooking after you take it out of the oven. So I just have a disposable metal pie pan. Alright, so let's try to use our pie pan to measure out the dough that we rolled out. We kind of want it to be, we put it out in the center first of all, and we kind of want it to be 2 inches from each side. That's kind of the rule, maybe 1.5 to 2 inches, let's say. A lot of books out there and websites and stuff, they like roll out to 12 inches diameter, which means 12 inches from one side to the other. But I mean, I don't have a tape measure very close, and I don't really need to use one. You just use the pie pan, just eyeball it. If you think it's too small, just roll it out just a little bit more. Alright, so now I'm gonna use my trusted rolling pin over here and get my dough right on it. It really helps to prevent tearing, so it's one of the methods you can use it too, but you don't have to. So let's put it on the pie pan over here, and I'm gonna patch some of those tears that still happened. See a big one right there? It's you just use your fingers, doesn't matter the size, just patch it up. So now let's try to kind of push the dough into the pie pan. You can see when I put it in there, there's a little space in between the pie pan and the dough. So what I do here is I just take the flap that's hanging over the pie pan with my right hand, and then I kind of push it toward myself a little bit, and then with my left hand I push the dough inside the pie pan. Just make sure there's no space in there, there's no air bubble in between the pie pan and dough. Alright, make sure that you are happy with your dough. Here you can see I'm just kind of checking and patting it, make sure it's happy with me. So next step is to just trim off the edges there with a knife, and then it's ready for fridge. You just put a plastic wrap on it and then let it sit there for just maybe a few minutes while you prep the filling. You can also freeze it just like this, and so when the craving strikes you can just take it out and it's ready for baking. You don't need to defreeze it or anything like that, so it's really nice. You can also roll out those edges again and then cut out fun shapes for the top of the pie, or just bake them as is. Maybe brush some egg yolk on top, sprinkle some cinnamon and some sugar, and it'll be delicious pie cookies. Num num. My toddler actually really likes them, so it's a great way to reuse and not waste. Alright, so let's mix all the ingredients for the filling. The recipe is below. I'll talk about the fillings a little bit more in the next episode, but I just kept the filling here the same for all 3 pies just to be able to compare the crusts. Alright, decoration. So let's make a lattice top really quick. So I have a second half of our pie dough here, same size as the other one, pretty much very close. So I'm gonna cut it diagonally. Use karate chops if you want. I'm gonna use a pizza cutter. You can also use a knife. So I'm gonna cut them just 1-inch strips. You can do 2, really any thickness you want. So this is gonna go on the top of the pie. You can also just use a normal rolled out pie dough that I just had before I cut it all. Just make sure you take a knife and put a little cut on top, just to make sure all that steam that can escape while it bakes. So next I'm gonna take out my pie dough that we already just prepped from the fridge or the freezer if you prepped one already before this. And then I'm gonna take my pie filling that we prepped earlier as well. I'm gonna stir it a little bit just to make sure all the good stuff is evenly spread, and then we're gonna try to fill it. But make sure to not fill it too much. My golden rule is I fill it up to the top edge, make it flush with the top edge. You don't really have to follow it, maybe put a little bit more. Just experiment and see which level works for you, but I usually try to make it flush. One thing to keep in mind though, if you put a lot of filling in there, your pie can get a little soggy because you're putting more and more moisture into it. So just kind of keep that in mind, so that's why I kind of follow my golden rule. So next we're gonna use our strips that we just cut and make the lattice. Alright, so we're getting close to the end here. So if something breaks off or cracks or anything like that, you can see one of the spots here cracked. For me, just fix it with your fingers, just squish it in together. It'll be okay as it bakes. So don't stress out about it too much. But you can see here I just kind of alternated. One goes under, one goes on top, one goes under, one goes on top. Just kind of follow those steps and you'll be all good. So now I'm going to use this fork to kind of squish it along the edge of the pie, just to make that edge a little prettier. It's pretty easy and it just makes it a little nicer. You don't have to really do that. It's up to you. Just make sure that those flaps are kind of squished in with, connected I guess, with the edges of the pie. Then we're going to trim it once again. And next we're going to chill it in the fridge for maybe around 30 minutes. And then we're going to bake it. Right before baking I'll probably put in some a little bit of the egg yolk, brushed egg yolk on top, and sprinkle some sugar, and we'll be ready to go. So those are 3 pies. You can see the bottom pie there. I didn't even use the second half of the dough. I just used the leftover dough from the edges. I rolled them out, cut the butterflies, and then from what was left, I just used the grater and made the crumble. Let's bake them at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for around 45 to 50 minutes until golden brown, and the mixture should bubble just a little bit. Also put a metal pan under it just to catch that melted butter. You can also put the pie pans on top of the metal pan to make the bottom a little bit more baked. So this is the end. So let's cut in and pick our favorite. So after baking, I let them sit on the counter for maybe an hour or so, and then I stuck them in the fridge for overnight. But you don't have to wait. You can just cut them right after that 1 hour wait and eat them. But it looks like this, but still yummy. So it's up to you. But the ones I'm showing you now, set in the fridge overnight. And we're back. Alright, so we made those 3 pies. They look pretty awesome, all 3 of them actually. So here we have the basic one, this is the egg one, and this is the cream cheese one. So before we said that we're going to rate them based on 3 things: structure, flakiness, and flavor. So what we're going to do, by the looks of it, if you guys can see it, the structure, I mean they all hold up pretty well when you got them out. But if I would give them a rating from 1 to 3, this one will probably be number 3, the worst. This one would be probably number 2, because you can kind of see it if you look at it. It's pretty flaky, so it kind of messes up the structure a little bit, you know. And this one is pretty solid, the cream cheese one. So that would be probably the number 1, the cream cheese, because you don't see much of flakiness in there. And since we're already talking about the flakiness, you can kind of see that this one is kind of the winner here, because you can actually see the flakiness of this one. You can like just touch it with the finger and stuff starts coming off of it. I mean, it's super flaky. It's really cool and nice. The next one, so this one would be number 1 for the best for the flakiness. This one would be probably number 2. This is just the regular one. You can kind of see it. I mean, you know that it's still flaky, you know, here on the crust and stuff like that. It's pretty nice. And here, the cream cheese one is actually pretty solid. So it doesn't really have much of flakiness at all. Just maybe just very little bit, like I'm touching it, and you know, nothing really comes off of it. So that would be probably the worst one. So the last thing we gotta do is taste it. I wish I had other people to feed since I have 3 pies, but I guess we're gonna eat them ourselves. So let's try them. I'm gonna try the cream cheese one first. Here we go. All right, here we go. The filling turned out pretty good too. Nice colors. So you can, if you taste it, and it kind of already described it, so you can't really taste the flakiness that much at all. You do taste the cream cheese. You know the kind of the difference, I guess, in the sense that the cream cheese is there, but it's not very flaky, and you can't really taste the butter, so the buttery crust kind of thing. Alright, so let's taste the basic one here. See how it compares to the cream cheese. So I'm gonna take the top here. That was really good. So that one, you know that it's a nice buttery crust. And like I mentioned, it's flakier. So it tastes pretty good. I like this one, just the basic one. It tastes better, I feel like, than this one, to me at least. And so let's try this last one, the egg one. It's supposed to prove the flavor compared to the basic one, if you guys remember, by adding the egg and the milk. So let's see here. I like the feeling a lot. Yeah, this one is probably the best. So if I were to rate them, this would be probably 1 for the best, 2 and a 3. This one, just the 1. It really has a good flavor to it. Like I said, it's flaky, just how the pie crust is supposed to be. So you can kind of taste it in a sense. And the flavor of it is really good. And not just kind of bland, I guess, in a sense, you know. The egg actually does add kind of richness to it. So it's actually really good. This one would be number 2 just because it's nice. Just a normal pie crust, has still flaky, pretty good. You can actually taste a little butter still in there. This one is just a little strange. I was hoping for the cream cheese to win, honestly. But it's just kind of denser than the other ones. So not so flaky, and doesn't really taste super buttery either. So it's kind of strange. But ta-da! We have a winner. This one is it. Alright y'all, so we tried 3 different pie crust here. It was a pretty cool experiment. I enjoyed it. Obviously I have a lot to eat. But anyway, so it's really fun. So I'm gonna leave all the recipes below in the comments. So if you try them, just let me know which one is your favorite. You guys know that this one, the one with the egg, is my favorite, so I'm gonna go finish that one up. But just let me know. Let me know if you have your secret recipe as well. We could try them out and compare them to the winner over here, or if you want me to try any other ones from any websites or books or anything like that. Just comment and we'll see what we can do. The next episode is going to be about fillings. I didn't talk about fillings in this episode too much. Next episode, we're going to talk about different ways of cooking the filling and how you can just go to the grocery store, pick up some fruits and stuff, and make them a filling from your favorite fruits. So just click subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Hello everybody, it's Misha, and this is our first episode of Baking It with Misha. That's me. And we're gonna make pie today. Here's a bowl of fruit. We're gonna turn it into pie, just putting it in the oven. Poof! Pie! The end.
I like that better. At least it gets a good shot of you.